Dr. Amelia Beakey with the SOMI Docs Physician Panel. We are following up on the lecture from last night on titles. And I have with me two physicians at the moment. A third should be joining us here in just a moment. And we're going to talk about Dr. Pfaff's lecture from last night and our own experience with titles. So Cecilia, let me start with you. Tell us about yourself, where you are, your specialty, and some of your experiences with titles.
Sure. Thank you for having me. So happy to be here. So my name is Ceclia Cruz, and I am an emergency medicine physician by training. I live in Glenview, Illinois, which is just a suburb about 20 minutes north of the Chicago downtown area. I have 4 kids, and I'm married to a pulmonary critical care doc who works at another hospital in the downtown area here. And my experience with titles as a physician is that we're very tied to them. I think that unlike any other career, any other specialty or that people go into, medicine requires for us to put in so many years of education, so much hard work, so much sacrifice and we start, so early, and it ends, again, it takes so many years that it really becomes part of our identity. And so that MD or, whatever other degrees you may have gotten with the MD becomes really a part of you. And it is oftentimes, unfortunately, how we identify ourselves, how we give ourselves value. We forget who we are at our core and only give ourselves value based on the achievements that we have had throughout our careers. And most of us, and I certainly speaking for myself, live our lives from one achievement to the next, holding off or staving off our happiness until we achieve that next step. And so it's, when we're, I remember for myself when I was in high school, I'll be happy when I get to college. When I was in college, I'll be happy when I make it to medical school. When I was in medical school, I'll be happy when I get that residency, and so on and so forth. And then you've given up so many years of your life, and suddenly you're an attending and you're working and you think, hey, I'm here. Now I'm supposed to be happy. And many times you're not. And I think that makes it really difficult to come to terms with those feelings of dissatisfaction. So that so far is my experience.
Yeah, I think that's a great opening, and we'll definitely come around to that, how it does become so much of our identity. And if we're going to continue to choose that, and maybe some workarounds for that as well.
Yes.
Mrinalini, I got that right. I'm going to have you come up next and share where you are, your specialty, and your experience with titles.
Yes, my name is Mrinalini Garv. I am a primary care physician by training, and now I'm a transformational career coach. I help female professionals smash through their income ceilings and feel valued and fulfilled in their career. So I have an interesting take on titles. I do agree with Cecilia that we are so married to our titles that sometimes it's scary to step out of our titles and then think about ourselves like, whoa, who am I without my title? And for me, I felt that I never fit into the title of a physician. And I felt I was on this journey to figure out who I truly am, what I truly want in my life. And I think that allowed me to take the turns in my life that I took. I was trained as a physician in India. I practiced there for about 4 years. And then I came to the US to get my master's in health services administration. And then I worked as a hospital administrator. And then I also taught as a business professor in a renowned business school. And I realized only after I started my own business, I feel that, that's the description or the title that I fit in. But when I say that, it does not mean that that's the only thing that defines me, but I feel at home and I do not feel restricted by titles anymore. And Actually, I really agreed with Dr. Pfaff's opinions yesterday, when he said about, how we put ourselves in a box and just are unwilling, or rather we do not know how to step out of that box and look at us as a whole. So I think it's really an interesting journey to first identify ourselves with our titles, and then get on that journey to really understand what more we are, and be on that discovery process. And I think that discovery process goes on till we die.
Yeah. And tell me, which of the pieces from Dr. Pfaff yesterday stood out to you the most? Were there some key points that really resonated for you?
Uh, the most important thing he said, and I was, that really, really resonated with me. And this is what I teach my clients also. It starts with you,
Mhm.
right? Whether you're trying to figure out what you want to do next, or even if you're trying to figure out what needs to go on your resume, what needs to go on your LinkedIn profile, it's about you. It's really understanding what truly excites you. What is it that that if you ventured into, you will have the biggest impact. And most of us do not realize the power of really knowing ourselves and really knowing what gives us joy and what excites us.
I think that's so powerful. And Rob is joining us. Can you hear us there?
I can. Can you hear me?
You can. Welcome.
Minor miracle.
Yeah,
In the
technology.
background. I wanted the peasants in the background, but that's all right.
It's all right. We'll take audio where we could have it.
Sorry to
Tell
interrupt.
us a little bit about yourself, where you are, your specialty, and how you've experienced titles.
Well, can I hear a quick, what is your specialty?
My specialty is in neuromusculoskeletal medicine and osteopathic manipulative medicine. And I'm currently in Michigan and I have all kinds of titles. And I like to bounce between them, is what I found, not being married to anyone, but enjoying exploring them all.
Good for you. What about Cecilia and I can't remember, I can't read it, Mrinalini? What are my glasses, but it's
Mrinalini, yes. Yeah, they shared a little bit of their story just now.
just want to know their specialties and give me the 30-second skinny so I'm not interrupting.
Yeah, you got to give a quick recap.
Sure. I'm an ER doc by training and currently also transitioning into coaching for physicians.
And I'm a primary care physician, and I am a career coach now.
I'm a long-standing radiologist. I work from home part-time, mostly reading x-rays and ultrasounds, some MRIs from time to time. And I'm a part-time author. That's a whole other story. And I've been a day trader the last 6 months, just a little side hustle, as somebody once said, just making a little extra money because the x-rays and everything's been kind of down. I've been mostly working for outpatient clinics. So, but I've done all the days of hospitals and weekends and night call and plenty of those years. So probably 30 years of that. So I'm just trying to slow it down a little bit and diversify life a little bit. So
it sounds like lots of us are moving through different identities and titles in this time. One thing that was really interesting to me with Dr. Pfaff yesterday was working through kind of the skill building around how we can use titles to our advantage and not be caught up in them and kind of move into our skill sets. And I think we have a strong contingent here speaking to that. And perhaps personally or with your clients or even with your patients, how do you help them to see what skills they have and how to leverage them, how to make titles work to their advantage? Cecilia, do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things that struck me, that what Mrinalini said that I try to use for my clients, the docs that I coach now, is that idea of our story. And it's, what Mrinalini was presenting, that we all have a story. And that fact that being a physician, I think that oftentimes where I have found with my clients and even with myself, as I've processed my own transition, again, where we get caught as physicians in the process, is sometimes it's, again, as I said before, it's difficult letting go of the idea that I'm a doctor, or because we spent so many years training to be this. And it's somehow, I think there's shame or guilt in letting go and saying, and maybe, telling ourselves or really being honest with ourselves that maybe this particular job or this particular position isn't what we really dreamt of all our lives. But if we let go of that a little bit and think about it, that it's part of this beautiful story of our life, and that it's a stepping stone in creating and in filling who we really are, in helping us discover what our true purpose as a human being is. I think that is that, where we can find, like Dr. Pfaff was saying, find who we are, find ourselves, find our values and what drives us, what is our passion, and what is the one thing that really defines our life's purpose. And there's a million ways where we can all live our life's purpose. It doesn't have to be in just one career under one title. And I think when we are able to find that it's this beautifully written story, and that each part of the story has value in creating who we are, who we're meant to be, that's where we can grow into this. Yes, I am finding myself.
Yeah, I love that idea. We can grow into the title, maybe even beyond it, right? We
Yes.
can use that and then step forward from it. Mrinalini, what do you think about that? And I think sometimes too, this is kind of like the strengths and weaknesses, right? How is your strength also your weakness, and vice versa, and how we can use that to our advantage?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things that I have seen, from my own experience and also working with physicians, because we are so tied to our title, we sometimes do not leap toward our dreams, in the sense that we think that we just do clinical work, right? I just see my patients, interact with my nurses and MAs, and, I'm done. But when it comes to really doing an inventory of our skills, it is important to really sit down and list each and everything you do as a doctor. And when you do that, you realize that, oh, by the way, you sit on those committees. Oh, by the way, you help with that quality improvement project. Oh, by the way, you help facilitate a great conversation, and there were some conflicts and you figured it out. So if we do not sit and take the time to list all the things that we do, it's not just, and I don't mean just, right? Providing patient care is huge, right? But it is not only the clinical things that you do a lot of administrative things, and we forget, right? Even documentation, as much pain in the neck it is, right? We are still doing that, right? We are writing stories in a way to make sense for whoever the audience is that's going to read the story. So we underestimate ourselves a lot because we put ourselves in this box. And, a lot of clients who come to me, they say, oh, I was actually thinking about going for an MBA. And of course, if you want to go for it, go. But if you feel that you don't have enough skills and that's why you're going for an MBA, you might want to actually sit down and see if you really have those skills or not. And I used to teach in business school, and I know what goes on in the MBA programs and executive programs. And if you can sit down, list each and everything that you do, you will know that you're doing way more than what a physician would do. So don't undersell yourself, because you think that, oh, I'm only focused on doing clinical work.
I think that's really beautiful. A couple of main points you made in there, that the doctor title doesn't have to be an anchor, right? Let it be kind of this leap ahead, this platform to launch from, and definitely not crediting ourselves for what we do, because sometimes we just assume everybody would do this, or we're just supposed to do this, right? It's just part of doctoring. Oh yeah, we'll pick up that task, and actually taking a moment and explicitly noting everything you do. And thank you for offering that perception. And it'd be interesting to hear maybe a little more about your experience working in MBA programs, because many of us are kind of course, intentional or over course buying, and seeing that's fine, right? If you enjoy getting those skills, but just like Cecilia said, sometimes it's that arrival fallacy. Oh, if I just get this, then I'll be good enough. And if I just get this, I'll be qualified. Instead of saying, I might enjoy, right? I'm seeking those skills for different reasons can be so powerful. Thank you for that. Rob, how about for you? How do you notice that we can leverage our titles for our advantage?
It's funny you say that because you guys are all coaches, and I'm thinking that I've got a book coach now. I've got two coaches. I've got my social media and my email coach, and then I got this coach and that coach, and a lot of moral support. But I've got a co-author helping me with this book I'm writing. So, and she says your title doesn't mean anything in the book writing business. She says, publishing houses and agents, they don't care if you're a MD. If you can't write, doesn't matter, and I can't write. I mean, I wrote, we've all been through high school and college English, whatever else. I guess I can write a little bit. And I mean, I got some compliments, but we're moving on with this project. So some things you got to let go that, just because you're an MD doesn't mean you can play in the NFL, doesn't mean you can play in the NBA, doesn't mean you can write a book, doesn't mean you can be a good attorney, so there's the realism of that, especially when you're in your late 50s. And your memory's not as good as it used to be, and your study skills aren't as good. Your organizational skills, especially now with all this technology, it's even harder because you're just overwhelmed. So a balance is a good thing. The strategies you come up with, I guess, would be a good answer. Experience. I always tell these kids growing up, and I do miss academic medicine to some degrees, and I like teaching, but you say there's no substitute for experience, and experience is dividing your time. Doing something good. I'm glad I'm back to radiology, where I was kind of burnt out for a while and back to it, but now it's sort of paying the bills. But I'm not burnt out of radiology. I'm burnt out of writing because I'm trying to write and I'm not real good at it. So I'm getting a lot of help with that. But doing the radiology helps pay the bills. And then the day trader part was you guys are MBAs, or at least one of you. That would have been my backup plan. I mean, if you're not a wide receiver in the NFL or a point guard in the NBA, running a mutual fund for Fidelity would have been my other choice. So you got to get an MBA, you got to be top of the line, and that's a dream come true too. How many people get to do that? How many Peter Lynches are there out there? So you become realistic, but at least you have goals. You do different things. People get bored, people get burnout from whatever they do, and it's nice to exercise and go out to dinner and do the things we like. They take vacations other than work, but it's nice to actually venture into something else. And I've been for a lot more than I can chew with some of these projects. So, but it's okay. It keeps you sharp, and that's about it for now. It's a spontaneous answer. So,
and I think that's so interesting how sometimes taking on a different project can actually bring you back to medicine, right? Kind of gives you some space to approach it on your choosing. And that can be really helpful. And all three of you are kind of echoing what Dr. Pfaff mentioned about identifying the skills that you have, finding the evidence for them and bringing that forth. And I think it's that idea of confidence. And so just like we can have mindset around titles, confidence is a feeling that we can bring ourselves with mindset. And how do you find that you're able to tap into that? How are you able to drum up confidence for yourself, or when you're encouraging your clients, maybe it is regarding a title they haven't had yet that they're seeking, and hopefully seeking it for the right reasons. But how do we relate that? How do we build confidence to bring ourselves either into the title we have or toward one that we're seeking? Cecilia, do you want to start there?
Sure. So I personally, something that has worked very well for me, as well as several of my physician clients, is the operating system of positive intelligence, mental fitness. I don't know if any of you guys are familiar with that, but it was developed by Shirzad Chamine. He is a very well recognized person in the world of coaching. He's done a lot of research, and prior to becoming familiar with this, I on my own practiced mindfulness, practiced meditation, just really the art of trying to center myself. And in those moments when my brain was, went out, right, again, all those doubts and fears and anxieties that we all have that kind of swirl around in our heads, I would, practice trying to center myself, again, practicing mindfulness or meditation. But in particular for me, the techniques with positive intelligence, mental fitness have worked very well, because it's something that I've been able to implement into really during and throughout my day. So it's something that I practice regularly throughout my day, even in the moments when one of my kids comes up to me and is driving me crazy, or I see a patient who's a little difficult, or and that allows me to stop, sort of first become aware, like when I'm getting tense or I'm getting angry, I'm feeling frustrated, first, kind of come into my body and become aware that that's happening. And then, sort of stop and ask myself, okay, what is it? Why am I feeling angry or upset or sad or whatever it may be? And then, again, I do what is called PQ repping, which is really like a tiny 2-minute meditation kind of exercise, really just kind of focusing on my body. And then by doing that, I'm able to shift my brain to a different place where I can just find some clarity and kind of just stop and remove myself from the anxiety of the moment and come at it from a place more of curiosity or empathy, and that has given me, really what it's done has allowed me to build love for myself. Mm-hmm. And that love for myself has really built my confidence. Mm-hmm. So that's helped very much for me.
Yes, I love that. And I love how we're tying the threads from all the different lectures we've had in the SOMI Docs lecture series so far, because self-compassion was where we came from with the distractible or the indistractable, for looking at that version of the opening lecture. And that really is where it begins, right? So that's the common origin for so much of this. Mrinalini, let me know how you think about building confidence, either for the title we seek, the title we have, or to move past it, right? To be confident enough to not need the title.
First of all, I love, Cecilia, your method of, becoming aware of our body and seeing what is going on, just calming down. I think that's like a quick fix, right? And then you can go deeper and understand what exactly is going on. So I love that. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
So for me, I was on this journey to really find confidence. And I'll tell you in short. So for me, being an immigrant, right, brown woman, new country, and even though my education was in English, I speak differently, right? But I did not have confidence in myself. And I felt that, it might be because I'm from a different country. It might be because I'm a woman. It might be because, I have a different skin color. And that actually really made me go deeper and understand, what this thing is called confidence. I did a lot of research and you read all these amazing articles on leadership, you read books and whatnot, and they talk about techniques, right? Oh, look at your posture, right? When you're saying something, use your, a louder voice, use hand gestures and whatnot. So that all is fine. But unless and until you feel confident within, you feel that you're faking it, right? And I am not a big fan of fake it till you make it. I'm a big fan of make it and you will be confident. So I think it's really important to understand, why do we feel the lack of confidence? Why can't we speak? Why can't we use our voice and be visible when other colleagues are in front of us? Why do we hold ourselves back? Why do we react disproportionately to the situation and whatnot? And I think unless and until you go deeper and really understand, where it is exactly coming from, and it usually is our past experiences, especially while we are growing up. Those are the experiences we carry with us as adults. So, if as a child you were afraid of authority, guess what? You are going to be afraid of authority and you'll be scared to ask for a raise, right? You're going to be scared to ask for that juicy project or ask for, hey, I am going to do only one weekend a month, right? So the fears are coming from somewhere way before. And unless and until we really go deeper, understand our triggers, what might have caused us to play small and dim our light, everything else, in my opinion, is helpful. It gets you through the day. But when you go to bed and sleep at night, you're still questioning and doubting yourself. So it's important to address our past and really understand why we have become the way we have become.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Yes. And sharing that, how being in all those different roles, right? Different titles as well around that can really influence your confidence and how we can step into it. And we really do need to go within. Thank you for that. Rob, how about for you? How have you seen confidence coming into play in your physician role, or perhaps as you've sent it to these new ventures, as you mentioned, right? Maybe taking on something that wasn't your natural strength, skill set, but moving forward anyway. What do you know and think about confidence?
I love both your answers, by the way. It's and it gives me some time to think. I've got to take a page off where you have to remove yourself from the moment or remove yourself from that frustration. I like that thought. I need to work on that, and people have told me that too. So whether it's going to the gym or walking or doing something yoga in some cases, or a good song, just a distraction. But now that I'm listening to you two, I'm thinking let's go back to high school. 9th grade to 12th grade. Here's your graph of confidence. Then college, we're pre-med, we're in Chem 1, we're in calculus. Here's our curve of confidence. By the time we're seniors, med school, same thing. Residency, same thing. You're on the top of the heap when you're from the bottom to the top. New friends, you know all the knowledge in the world. Then you get your first job. You find out you don't know squat. Then your confidence level goes up, right? And then your second job or your third. I've had a few. Maybe you have, maybe you're not. If you're lucky enough, you'd work the same job for 30 years. Probably by that 30th year, you're pretty confident. They throw you that retirement party, the place, your business. So, and then starting again with new ventures, your confidence is going to go down because you're in uncharted territory. So for me lately, it's been friends and family, people that, because everything I've been doing, I could have retired. Mom passed a few years ago. We did the financial thing and I could just move on and quit. And I'm like, why the heck am I doing all this extra stuff when I could be retired? I'm working radiology to help a friend who's helped me out over the years, a former partner, still good friends. So that's the radiology part. And the money always comes in handy, especially when you don't know, especially during COVID, you don't know when hard times are coming out. So the confidence there is okay. And I feel good about that I'll get supported just because I'm helping a friend out. Confidence in the other things where you just want to quit every day or every other day because what the heck am I doing? Friends and family, it helps, or, just a message from whatever, God, or just like you said, when your meditation is some message you give yourself saying, I'm doing this for a reason, something's guiding you. So I don't know, but in the end, we're insecure sometimes. You get a big disease like we do, we're all insecure because nobody knows what's happening tomorrow or the next day, Elections, same thing, it's all the confidence, it just kind of waxes and wanes. And it's been a very strange year. So confidence is a relative thing. You feel safe going to the grocery store, you need to stay at home, so.
Yeah, I think you bring up a couple great points. And I love that idea of, we kind of ascend and then we drop back down through all these years. And I've been working with first year medical students this year, and I have to remind them all what it's like, right? You've been taken from the top of the class and you put amongst all the top of the classes, and you can't all be the top of the class anymore. And that's really hard, right? That's been what you've been trained to know and believe about yourself. And then to say, wait a minute, this new extrapolation has to happen. And that's really challenging. And it happens to us over and over and over again in the process of training. And imposter syndrome comes up a lot right now. And it's always come up. I think we finally are naming it more frequently, and that it actually, it kind of waxes and wanes and gets worse as you get more experience, because you know how much there is to know. And you think, well, there's no way, right? No way I'm ever going to do this enough, well, worthy and valuable. And so let's talk about that. Maybe it's a little bit of a tangent, but I think it ties in, is that imposter syndrome is when we don't believe we deserve, right, the titles that we do have. And how does that come up, and how do you talk yourself through that? And Cecilia, you okay being our launcher here?
Yeah, sure. Sure. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, for me, and again, my experience with my clients has been similar to what I've already mentioned. In that imposter syndrome really comes about from lack of confidence, and also from, again, those negative voices in our heads, right, that always tell us you're doing something wrong. We focus as human beings. I mean, literally research has shown that we are created or made, or the way the human brain has developed is that, for every one negative experience, emotion that we need to have 3 positive ones to counteract that. Because again, developmentally, we had our survival brain back in the day when, so we had to remember the bad things, the dangerous things, the poisonous snake or the dangerous whatever. And so this is how we have been built. And so again, this plays into our lives every day and certainly into our careers. And I think in medicine, for the, again, our training, we are asked all along for perfection, when we all know that really in the world, there is no perfection. None of us can be perfect there, but that's what is demanded of us. And we are beaten and made fun of and made to feel ashamed when we make a mistake so often. And so again, this, as we get our titles and then we start, like you, I think very much like you said, as we learn more and we realize, oh my gosh, there's so much that I don't know, then of course, all of those thoughts of, you're an idiot, you're never gonna know this, you're never gonna be good enough, really come in. And so again, in order to fight that, it's connecting with the positive. It's connecting with, that part of ourselves that has empathy and has unconditional love for us, that can say, okay, you made a mistake today in whatever, you documented the wrong thing on that patient, but okay, what can you learn from that? And you won't make that mistake again, right? So instead of being so scared about making mistakes, instead embracing them and giving ourselves the love and empathy so that we can make some of those negative experience actually positives to counteract that 1-to-3 ratio.
Mm-hmm. And they can actually be so valuable to know that we can still come out standing, right? We can make the mistakes and show up another day versus when we are kind of coasting, like everything's going well, we assume that's how it has to stay. But to see that lapse and to be able to recover is so powerful. Mrinalini, what do you think about imposter syndrome or the idea of deserving our titles or how we manage that?
I have two thoughts around that. One is to notice that the imposter syndrome comes, it becomes huge when we are going to take a big step in our life. So if it's about career change, if it's having that conversation about, a raise, or it's about confronting a toxic colleague, that's when, we start having those thoughts, right? So it's very important to notice the timing of when those doubtful thoughts come into our mind, right? Because we do not think about not having the skills or not being confident throughout the day. It's always when we are making an important decision, that's when suddenly all those negative thoughts, like it just feels like what just happened, right? You suddenly become a completely different person. So I think it's very important to notice when those negative thoughts are coming to mind. And then the second thing, I teach my clients is, we are very used to being unkind to ourselves. Like at the drop of a hat, we can just say all the crazy things to ourselves. My hair doesn't look so good. Oh, I'm not feeling really good. I don't like my dress, and I hate, I hate how I write, or whatever it is, right? We don't have to think about saying negative things to us, right? And somehow we need to change those messages that we give ourselves. So one thing that I teach my clients is to create a journal, and I like to call it brag book, right? And we are actually training our brain, that because our brain has mastered negativity, right? Now it's like, training a dog. Now we are going to tell, okay, brain, you got all the negative things. Now I'm going to show you a different way. Mm-hmm. And in the brag book, you basically write things that make you proud of yourself. And it could be as simple as, I feel compassion, when I see a homeless person. Now, whether you give them money or not is not important, but just being able to have that compassion, right? I'm proud of that, right? I love my eyes, right? Or, I love how my nails look. It could be as simple as that. But as physicians, we have done way too many amazing things and we don't give ourselves credit. But if you can get into the habit of writing down every day, spend just 5 minutes, but write down the things that you're proud of and start the day with that, it's going to be a completely different day. And
Mhm.
that just changes, that sets the tone for the day. And if you could also do that before you go to bed, or at least read what you have written in the morning, then you go to bed feeling proud of yourself and happy thoughts, and you sleep well, and you wake up in the morning and you're excited to look at yourself in the mirror. So it's important to change the messages that we give ourselves.
That's really beautiful. And I love that idea of doing it before sleep, right? You kind of take that into, those are good, sweet dreams to have, and finding the word that matches. I did this exercise with some clients and I did it with myself first. So you test things on yourself first. And I did first a page, things I didn't like. I filled it up in like no time at all. And I flipped it, things I did like, and it was like crickets, you write like 3 things. And I kind of sat around, thinking, come on, and so this is what I did. I went back to the didn't like and like tried to find inverses. Like that was the training wheels program. But I like this idea and finding the words, because maybe like or love, but proud of, or even just appreciate or notice, like
Yes.
what are some ways we can tap into it that don't seem so intimidating? And I love, love, love the idea of how the thoughts come in at those key transition times, because transitions are hard no matter what, but seeing that they're hard because of this onslaught of self-doubt that comes in, I don't think I noticed that as much. And that's so key to say, of course, right? Your brain's going to pop up and say, did you think about this? Did you think about this? And that's huge. Thank you for bringing those to my attention. I'm going to try it tonight. I'm going to switch it up. Brag book. All right, Rob, how about for you? Any experience with imposter syndrome or how you've worked with feeling deserving of the titles you have?
It's funny you say that, because that term to me has only come up in the last few weeks and all through social media, probably on Facebook, and it might have been on LinkedIn as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm a little unfamiliar with it, but I think I get the concept. But as physicians, we got to, first of all, I've always been a cautiously optimistic person. So, cautiously optimistic. That's the way to go. If you're a gambler, if you anything in life, it's just a good thought to me. But we start from the top. Like she said, the homeless. I'm in Florida. There's plenty of homeless here. There's plenty of underprivileged. There's plenty of people who've been unemployed forever. And I'm so glad. I work from home. I mean, I'm lucky. I got my place. I've got, the comforts of my own home. I don't have a crappy hospital cafeteria I got to deal with. I don't have to deal with toxic people. It can be a little lonely sometimes, but at least you can step outside and meet people. And I've had all that at the hospital too. But you look back at people that haven't had privileges, that haven't had parental support or family support going through, med school, college, the residency, the whole thing. We're lucky to have that. And you have to remind yourself of that we are privileged, that we're lucky to have that kind of thing, that we're a democratic society. We have the right to vote, which my parents never had, for example. So, we take that kind of thing for granted. Freedom of speech, freedom to love, freedom of profession. So there's that too. What else? I don't know. It's just, we're just lucky. I mean, we sometimes we're a little spoiled. Sometimes we lose track. And actually, I stay so busy that I don't even have time for imposter syndrome. It's actually when you have time on your hands, you sit back and and that's another thing, out of body experiences. I don't know if anybody's ever had those. I've had a couple out of bodies experiences or on the outside looking in. I've had one in med school in a lecture. It was the weirdest thing. And in my bar mitzvah, I had one that was weird. And then one other time after my mom passed, where you're actually in an out of body experience and you're looking at yourself from the outside. It's the weirdest thing. It lasts a couple seconds. It's like a daytime dream, but it puts it in perspective. It makes you feel like there's a greater being, that there's something out there that's besides us, and it guides us. We guide ourselves. I think we take our own fate into our own hands in a lot of ways. Sometimes you can't tell, and sometimes you're dealt a bad hand, but for the most part, we can control a lot of our fate. So yeah, it's a concept I get, and I got to think more about it. And if you ask me the same question next week, or if I get 20 rejection query letters, then I'll say, yeah, I'm an imposter. I'll be an imposter writer or something, whatever you want to call it. But no, it's an interesting concept, and I see it in people, and especially now with. But you guys are all solid people. You talk well. You can express yourselves well. You know what you're saying, and so you shouldn't have that. And I like your thoughts. I should hire one of you guys as a coach one of these days. Use one once in a while.
As you're bringing that up, one thing I noticed, you mentioned this out-of-body experience and how it actually made you connect more to yourself. And what I noticed, in coaching is that you had that mirror, and so like we said, the confidence comes from within. It requires self-compassion, but sometimes we do need a reminder, and in coaching, we're offering that mirror, that reflection back, maybe the identification of those blind spots, or pointing out like, hey, you might have become disconnected, right? That you might not be really in tune with who you are. And how do you notice that? How do you notice when you're off track? Maybe when you're not noticing, and who or what helps get you back on track? Ceclia, you've been on. We're just going to go with the rotation.
So how do I notice when I'm off track? I think there's an unrest. Like there's like just an internal anxiety, nervousness, jitteriness, and almost a need from where I have difficulty focusing on, on any one activity that I'm trying to do. Like my brain is scattered. And that's, and when I notice that, again, Rob has hinted to it a couple of times, but well, there's two things that I do. One, is back to what I was talking about before, really the centering myself and finding that part of myself that loves me. And that's not always easy. Sometimes it's almost what you were saying, looking in the mirror, or even thinking about or looking at a picture of myself when I was a little girl and remembering, who was I? Who was that little girl? What were, what were her dreams? What was her essence? Because again, it's usually when that anxiety, when I'm off kilt, it's because I am working too hard. Again, it's that imposter syndrome, or those negative voices that are telling me that I'm not good enough, or that I'm not doing this right, or that. And so it's a matter of finding what is the real me, what is inside of me. And again, when I connect to that little girl, or that image of her, the images that I have of, certain moments in my life, I can connect to who I am as a being, not who I am because of titles or achievements or anything else. Just what is my essence? Mm-hmm. And then in addition to that, for me, and I think, again, Rob has mentioned it a couple of times, but it is having a belief that there is something bigger than me, something that connects me to others, to this world, that there's an energy of love and peace and goodness, and that, that in the end, I'm going to be okay. That in the end, I am capable of dealing with whatever comes, that I have the capability to make it to the other side, and that I will not be defeated. It will not be the end.
Mm-hmm. That's really beautiful. I love that idea of looking back to that picture of you. And, in osteopathic medicine, we talk about the inherent self-healing capacity, and that all that same energy and physiology that brought us, from a neural tube to who we are now still exists, right? And how we can tap into that and remember how much power we really have within, and noticing when you're not quite in line with that, that's when things don't feel good. And drawing yourself back in to that core is so important. Thank you. Mrinalini, what do you think about getting off track and getting back on track? And I think the Bragg book might be a tool, but I bet you have some other amazing ones as well.
So for me, it took me a long time to realize that I am even off track, because, sometimes you get so much used to stress and anxiety. It's like now it's a higher level of anxiety, but I don't know if I'm off track or not. Mm-hmm. So it was really hard for me to understand, am I on autopilot, or, something is like grossly wrong now. So one thing that I found out for myself was, if at any point I feel that I'm struggling, that's the point when I stop. And what I mean by struggle is, so I create a schedule for myself every day, right? And then, some things go, the schedule is like, right, it blows apart when you have a toddler and when you're working from home, right? And it's the stress, right, that starts building, and in your mind you're starting thinking about, oh goodness, I have this client call, oh then I had to do that. And so the moment I start struggling with, oh, I have to figure all these things out, I know that's my time to pause. And then I pause and I really ask, what is important for me right now, right? Is it more important for me to go hug my toddler? And that is always going to be the most important thing for me. But just for an example, or do I need to just get stressed out and try to cram things together and create something which is not at par? And I ask that question and I make a choice in that moment, right now, who needs me the most or what I need the most.
Mm-hmm.
Right, when it comes to toddler, he always comes first. But the second thing is, what do I need the most right now? And then I take a breath and I actually write it down. And this is a habit that I have gotten into. So all my journals, all thing, I actually just write on index cards. I have like, bunch of index cards, very handy. And I write it down. It's easy to like just discard them and not have, lots and lots of journals. But I write it down, these are the three things and I have an hour. What do I do? And then I make a decision and then take action. And even in the flow of the day, when I used to work, in hospitals, that's how it would always be, right? Somebody says something, and I know that now I'm not able to focus on the next thing that I want to do, right? So I'm struggling to do that thing. It means my mind is filled with thoughts that are not going to help me do my job. So I just pause and then I say, okay, what is going on? And what do I need right now? And then I give myself that. And that comes from self-compassion, to be able to give yourself what you need in that moment versus abandoning yourself and trying to do things for others, pleasing others, and not keeping yourself in mind.
Yeah. I think so powerful to remind us that we don't often notice that we're off because we've learned to just live in stress, and that being off from our center is the normal. And sometimes there's that adaptation. So when we come back to it, it can feel a little weird. Like if you are used to being sleep deprived, you start to sleep enough, you almost feel worse for a while because you're running on adrenaline and stress in that moment. And now when you're actually rested, you might be a little less energetic, at least to start, right? Because you're no longer kind of frantic or even manic around that. And so reminding ourselves, what does it look like, right, to even be in ourselves and centered is so powerful. Thank you. Rob, I know you mentioned a couple of the tools you use, exercise, yoga at times. Any other ways you identify when you're kind of off or not aligned with yourself and how you get back on track?
I got a quick thing for all three of you. So you said, what did you just say? The rest, the naps. Naps are wonderful. They're healthy. If you can sneak in a 10-minute nap, I tell you, it is so refreshing. Especially, that postprandial fatigue you get at 2 p.m, have that coffee, get that 10-minute nap, and you wake up, boom, you're ready to go. The little girl thing you mentioned, it makes me think, if you had all the knowledge that you have now, and you can go back in the clock, how old would you want to be with what you know now? For me, it'd be about 40, 35 years old. You said a little girl, I couldn't see going back to 10 or 15 or 18. And then what you said was about stopping. Stop was actually today's word in today's song, coincidentally. But I've been doing that that's a whole other discussion. But so on those points, it's a funny thing. But for me, you can stop and give up the day altogether, which happens sometimes. You give up and you say, look, this day's not going the way I want it. It's a wasted day. It's a lost day. It's a day that's been stolen from me. And I feel about when I don't get to get my workout in, that's my thing. Like the day's been so damn packed in that I couldn't get my hour or two or whatever. That's my big thing. But if you're not moving along, whether it's reading x-rays for me or working on the book or marketing, I got books to read, I got Netflix shows to watch, I got foodie stuff to do. There's, go take that walk. There's always something out there that if it's not working, do something else that'll free your mind, that'll free you up and just say, tomorrow's another day. And you try to be efficient, but it's not always going to work. And it was even worse at the hospitals with the assembly line radiology, I used to call it. end up using ER or a lazy partner. Forget about a lazy partner. And that's what caused burnout for me, was all that, doing all that work. And I just cranked through it because you had to. You just did the job and it made you better. But after a while, you said enough is enough. And so even when you have more control of your day, you still sometimes don't have control of your day. You know, the plumbing, the electric, somebody passes away, God forbid, you know, stuff happens in life that's going to change your vector for that day, or maybe even for a month, you know, and you got to learn to accept that. But on the day to day, just, I like what you said, you stop, back off, you know, look at yourself, you have a toddler, I think you said, that's a different thing. I don't, but that's a whole different focus. Enjoy your dog, your cat, your loved ones, you know, let's go out to dinner, just those little things that you know, tomorrow's another day, you know, so we have a few of them left. So
yeah, we're coming towards the end. I want to have a couple questions and also give people a chance to find out where to reach you, obviously in SOMI Docs, but also if you have your own contact and your social media handles, of course, as we're all learning to build our prowess in that way. I posted into the group a week or two ago the question about titles and which title has been the most helpful and the most challenging for you. And even hurtful might have been the words, because I like alliterations, but I'll offer that here to both of you. And there's some really beautiful answers, and some of them were the same, right? The one in the same was the title that applied to both of those. And interesting how sometimes we intermix. Is title identity, right? Is it just a name, or are we really incarnating that into who we are? And so I'll give you a chance to think about that. And I'll share one that came up with me in talking to a client recently. I was looking at human as a title and how it's, you know, totally liberating, but also really challenging. There's a lot of things we have to do, right, to be human. Like, we do have to fuel ourselves, and we can look at fasting, and we're kind of required to sleep. So some things are somewhat beyond our control, for as much as in coaching, we like to talk about how we really, you know, can control things. Some of it, even though it might be involuntary, we're still participating in. So that was a really beautiful one, I thought, that was shared with me. So go ahead and share those two. We'll go around the circle just that way. And if it's one that applies to both, that's fantastic. And then I'll go around once more and just have people find out where they can reach you. So last time you get to kick us off, Cecilia.
Oh, this is a tough question. Title that has been the most, I think the title, so actually, so mom. Mom obviously has been the title that has given me so much joy. And I mean, I can't even imagine what I would be with if I weren't a mom. Mm-hmm. But I have to say that it's also given me, I don't know if sadness is the right word, but that has also been difficult. Mm-hmm. For as much joy as and again, I would not change that in any way, shape, or form. I love being a mother. Mm-hmm. But it has been the most challenging. That's probably the best way to phrase it. The most challenging in the sense that it is the one place where you are always called to be your best, even more so than in medicine, even more so because you have, like, you cannot I like to teach my children by example, and you find that is not always easy. You can't, even with, as a coach, where I try to embody all of the things that I've already talked about. And obviously I'm trying to share this with my children on how to, what Mrinalini was saying, when you come to these moments, take a moment of pause and think about how you want to react. But right, even in my own life, right, even though I'm a coach and even though I don't always do this, because I'm human, I get triggered and get angry, and sometimes, and yes, I'm learning to get better at recovering. But so this is how it has been the most challenging as a mother, because my kids will call me on it, right? They now say, well, you tell me not to do this, and look at you. And so it is, Yes. So it is beautiful and it's shared, and I would never give it up, but definitely the most challenging.
Yeah, I love that. And I concur, parenthood brings you into the full range of human emotions.
Yes.
Nothing else, right?
Yes.
All right. Mrinalini, what do you think? Most-
I'm on the same page as Cecilia and you. So being a mom, you do feel all the whole range of emotions, and I didn't know I was capable of feeling all of them. When I really think of titles, I think being a physician has helped me a lot, but it has also, I also had to downplay at times. So when I was working in the hospitals and I was on the administrative side, um, believe it or not, on the administrative side, doctors are considered difficult to work with. And they are considered, strong-headed, and we go to them, they're always going to say no. I mean, that's the image, at least in the couple of hospitals where I have worked, that has been the image. And I was responsible for process improvement and bringing teams together, and I would be working with frontline staff, I would be working with housekeeping staff, I would be working with someone in facilities and whatnot. And at times I felt that my title was a barrier. And many times I did not even share that I was a physician, so that they would feel less intimidated and be willing to share with me, that they couldn't figure out, whether I was a doctor or not. And I wanted to keep it that way, especially in large meetings. So I think being a physician, that's a great way, especially if you're trying to, go for a higher level position. Use it, to your best advantage. And there might be times where you might have to remove your white coat and, come at the same level with other people, because it is intimidating, for people on the other side, those who are not physicians, to see someone in the white coat, and they will not share with you what exactly they think about the processes and whatnot. So you have to, figure out, what would make the most sense, or about where you want to use your title.
Yeah. And how about you, Rob? Title has been the most helpful, most challenging,
I hear the beeping, so we're running out of time. It sounds like on Jeopardy.
right?
Most of the conversation was going to be about this. So I was thinking about this half the day was, well, when you say they're your doctor, you kind of command respect. For the most part, 90%, 99% of people respect you. You say, I'm a physician. I don't advertise it. I don't brag about it. I want people to know who I am before that. So I've been called all these nicknames over the years. My swim coach called me Bob. I was called Rob, Doc, whatever, Wolfie. And the ones that had the most affection, like Doc Rob, or, my time in Michigan, my best 9 years of my life in my 40s, and best time career-wise, friends-wise, they always call me Doc Rob and Doc, and I kind of like that too. There's a lot of titles we have, and we use it to our advantage in some cases, like when I'm at Publix and somebody got their mask half out, I say, look, I'm a doctor, your mask on wrong, put your mask on right, you're putting all this risk. Either that or say, I got the COVID, you want it? I mean, it's to break his chops. Kidding. But but on the other hand, I got the electrician in today, and I said, look, I'm a doctor, but I'm not a rich doctor, so take it easy. I'm a working man. So because they'll take advantage of you if they can too. So, but that said, I don't know. The title's a title. That's a whole other hour conversation, I think, because we do command a certain amount of respect. We have done our dues, our due diligence. People expect a certain amount of ethics, wisdom, morals from the title of MD or DO, whatever the case may be, PhD. And we have to live up to that, so.
Yeah. Well, thank you all so much. This was an excellent conversation. We went in all different directions, and I think lots of good pearls for our audience. And we'll have the physician panel every week following the lecture series. So it'll be on Wednesdays at 9, following the lectures, which are also at 9 p.m., but on Tuesdays. And next week, I do believe it's on Twitter. So we'll get into that social media game aspect leverage group. Give us just a quick handle where you are, where people could reach you, and then we'll wrap it up.
So you guys can all reach me at www.marpe journey.com.
All right, thank you. Chat. How about you, Mrinalini?
Yeah, you can visit my website, www.unshackledcareerwoman.com. And I also have a free private Facebook group. It's called Rapid Career Transformation.
All right. And Rob?
I may not remember all that. So if you two could reach out to me, I'll right back at you. I refollow. I'm on Twitter at Robert J. Wolf MD. I'm on Instagram and LinkedIn as Robert J. Wolf MD. RobertJWolfMD.com is my website. Check it out, please. Work in progress. Talk about my book, hopefully out next year. And Robert at RobertJWolfMD.com is my email address. Drop a line. I'll let you know when the book's out, hopefully by the end of next year. And it's no spam. It's just about the book. And that's been my life the last 2 years, is this book I've been working on. So everything else is sort of gravy. So
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for your time, and we'll see you in the group and hopefully in future conversations.
God bless.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.